Just a horrible situation unfolded earlier this morning in Gwinnett County. We learned that 4 people have died, and our Angelique Proctor joins us live to explain how this happened. Angelique, I understand that this shooting this morning happened in the vicinity of children, and one of them ended up calling for help. Is that true?
That is true. One of them courageous enough to pick up the phone and call police for help. We now know that child was just 12 years old. This is really just an unspeakable tragedy. Just this neighborhood really still in shock. Lots of people have been driving by to take a look at the scene of what happened here. But police have just given us some new information within the last hour. They now have released the name of the suspect in this case, as well as the victims. He is 51-year-old Vijay Kumar, and what we've learned is that he was actually from Atlanta, that Kumar drove here to Gwinnett County, according to what police are telling us, with his wife. Her name was Meemu Dogra. They got into an argument in Atlanta, according to police, then drove here to Gwinnett County with their 12-year-old child in that car. Now, police say once they got here, Kumar shot and killed not only his wife, but 3 other relatives. Now, police say just about 2 weeks ago, a male caller from this same house was in a dispute with his brother-in-law at that time. That was actually January the 10th. They called officers for help. Police say they responded, and the brother-in-law agreed to leave the scene. Well, this morning around 2:30 a.m., that is when this child called police and notified them of this shooting. We have been told that there were 3 children inside, one now 7 years old, another 10 years old, and then that 12-year-old who is the suspect's child, that they all hid in a closet, if you could imagine this, as this very violent shooting was happening. Just an unimaginable position for anyone, especially children. Now, Gwinnett police tell us that they arrived so quickly that suspect Kumar was still in the vicinity. We also talked with a woman who lives in this neighborhood and says she has dogs, and her dogs immediately realized something was wrong.
I think the dogs started barking, and that's what got my dogs all riled up, because Teddy and Simon hear sirens, but they don't bark at it. But they went ballistic, and it was scary I didn't understand what was going on, so I was totally shocked to see it was something really tragic so close.
Based on the information given by the child that called in, and what officers saw when they arrived, they still saw the suspect's vehicle in the driveway. So because they got here so quickly, they figured he was still close by. So K-9 officers were dispatched and arrived on scene, and they located him in the wood line. It's definitely a tragic situation. 4 people dying at the same time, especially with children in the home, is very, very tragic.
In the early morning hours of January 23rd, 2026, 3 children huddled together in a closet while gunfire echoed through a home in Lawrenceville, Georgia. By the time the shooting stopped, 4 people were dead, and a family had been shattered forever. This is the story of what happened that night, and how a single argument spiraled into an unthinkable tragedy. Before we dive in, if you're interested in cases like this that are breaking right now, hit that subscribe button, it's free, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next breaking case on Crime Shadows. Around 2:30 in the morning, Gwinnett County Police received a 911 call that would lead them to one of the most devastating domestic violence cases the area had seen in recent memory. According to police reports, officers rushed to a residence on Brook Ivy Court in Lawrenceville after receiving reports of shots fired. What they found inside would leave even seasoned investigators shaken. 4 adults lay dead from gunshot wounds. All were pronounced dead at the scene. But this story doesn't start at that house in Lawrenceville. It starts several miles away in Atlanta, where an argument between a husband and wife was about to take the darkest possible turn. The victims in this case were Meemu Dogra, 43 years old, Gourav Cumar, 33, Nidhi Chander, 37, and Harish Chander, 38. Meemu was married to Vijay Kumar, and they lived together in Atlanta with their 12-year-old child. The 3 other victims, Gourav, Nidhi, and Harish, were relatives of both Meemu and Vijay, who lived at the Brook Ivy Court home in Lawrenceville along with two younger children aged 7 and 10. According to investigators, the tragedy began with a domestic dispute between Meemu and her husband Vijay at their Atlanta residence. Police have not disclosed what the argument was about, and, frankly, we may never know the full details of what sparked that initial confrontation. What we do know is that after this argument, Meemu and Vijay made the decision to travel from their Atlanta home to the Lawrenceville residence where her relatives lived. They brought their 12-year-old child with them. Why did they go there? Was Meemu seeking safety with her family? Was she trying to get away from the escalating situation? Or did Vijay insist on going there for reasons we can only speculate about? These are questions that investigators are still trying to answer. The Gwinnett County Police Department stated publicly that it remains unknown what the argument was about or why the couple decided to travel to that particular residence with their child in the middle of the night. What is certain is that two younger children, aged 7 and 10, were already at the Brook Ivy Court home when the family arrived. These children were likely asleep, completely unaware that their lives were about to change forever. Now, let's talk about Vijay Kumar, the man at the center of this tragedy. Kumar was 51 years old and lived in Atlanta with his wife Meemu and their 12-year-old child. According to the Indian consulate in Atlanta, one of the victims was an Indian national, and Kumar himself is of Indian origin. Beyond these basic facts, we know very little about Kumar's background, his employment, or what may have been going on in his life leading up to this night. What we do know is what happened next, and the actions he would take in the early morning hours of January 23rd would result in the deaths of 4 people and traumatize 3 children who witnessed events no child should ever have to see. Police have not released information about any prior domestic violence incidents, any history of violence, or whether there were warning signs that family members may have noticed. The investigation is ongoing, and as more information becomes available, we may learn more about what led Kumar to this breaking point. But on that night, something inside him either snapped or revealed something that had been there all along. The Gwinnett County Police timeline places the shooting at approximately 2:30 a.m. on Friday, January 23rd. Officers responding to the shots fired call arrived at the Brook Ivy Court residence to find a scene of absolute devastation. Inside the home, they discovered the bodies of 4 adults, all suffering from fatal gunshot wounds. Meemu Dogra, Kumar's wife, was dead. Gourav Cumar, 33, was dead. Nidhi Chander, 37, was dead. And Harish Chander, 38, was dead. But amid this horror, there was a moment of incredible courage and quick thinking that may have saved lives. The 3 children who were in the home during the shooting, ages 12, 10, and 7, managed to hide together in a closet. Think about that for a moment. These kids, hearing gunfire, hearing screaming, somehow found each other and got to safety. And then, in what can only be described as an act of remarkable bravery, the 12-year-old child called 911. That call to emergency services was crucial. It allowed police to respond while Kumar's vehicle was still parked in the driveway, meaning he hadn't fled far from the scene yet. Gwinnett County Police Corporal Angela Carter spoke to the media about the incident, saying it was definitely a tragic situation, emphasizing that 4 people dying at the same time, especially with children in the home, was very, very tragic. The children were found physically unharmed but emotionally traumatized beyond measure. They had just witnessed or heard the murder of 4 family members. The 12-year-old had called for help while hiding with 2 younger children, trying to keep them quiet and safe while not knowing if the danger had passed. These 3 kids showed incredible strength in the face of unimaginable terror. All 3 children were later placed in the care of a family member, though one can only imagine the long road to healing they face after experiencing such trauma. When police arrived at the scene, Kumar's car was still in the driveway. This detail suggests that the 911 call came quickly enough that Kumar hadn't yet attempted to flee the area. But Kumar himself was not inside the home with the victims. Where was he? According to the Gwinnett County Police Department, officers immediately began searching the area surrounding the residence. They deployed K-9 units to assist in the search. These specially trained police dogs were able to track Kumar's scent from the residence into a nearby wooded area. Officers found Kumar hiding a short distance from the home, concealed in the woods. He was taken into custody without incident, meaning he did not resist arrest or attempt to flee when confronted by law enforcement. The fact that Kumar was found hiding nearby rather than attempting to leave the area entirely raises questions. Was he in shock over what he had done? Was he contemplating what to do next? Or was he simply trying to avoid immediate capture? We may never know what was going through his mind as he hid in those woods while police swarmed the area. What we do know is that Kumar now faces some of the most serious criminal charges possible under Georgia law. Vijay Kumar has been charged with 4 counts of malice murder, 4 counts of felony murder, 4 counts of aggravated assault, 1 count of cruelty to children in the 1st degree, and 2 counts of cruelty to children in the 3rd degree. Let's break down what these charges mean. Malice murder is the most serious form of homicide under Georgia law. It requires proof that the defendant intended to kill the victim. 4 counts means Kumar is charged with intentionally killing all 4 victims. Felony murder is a charge that applies when someone dies during the commission of certain felonies. In Georgia, you can be charged with both malice murder and felony murder for the same death, and prosecutors often bring both charges to give themselves options at trial. Aggravated assault typically involves an assault with intent to murder, rape or rob, or assault with a deadly weapon. 4 counts correspond to the 4 victims. The cruelty to children charges relate to the 3 children who were present during the shooting. 1st-degree cruelty to children in Georgia applies when a person maliciously causes a child cruel or excessive physical or mental pain. The fact that Kumar allegedly committed these murders while 3 children, including his own 12-year-old, were present in the home forms the basis for these charges. The 3rd-degree charges typically apply to allowing a child to witness family violence. If convicted on the malice murder charges alone, Kumar could face life in prison without the possibility of parole or even the death penalty. Georgia is a death penalty state, and cases involving multiple murders can potentially result in capital punishment, though prosecutors have not yet announced whether they will seek the death penalty in this case. At the time of this video, Kumar is being held in custody and has not yet had a preliminary hearing or arraignment. The case is still in its very early stages, and it may be months before it goes to trial. This case highlights the ongoing crisis of domestic violence in our communities. According to the Georgia Commission on Family Violence, Georgia ranks among the highest in the nation for the rate at which women are killed by domestic violence. In 2018, 97 Georgia citizens lost their lives due to domestic violence. In 42% of the cases studied through Georgia's Domestic Violence Fatality Review Project, children were present during the killing, just as 3 children were present in this case. These statistics aren't just numbers. They represent real people, real families torn apart by violence. The Lawrenceville shooting is a stark reminder that domestic violence doesn't just harm the direct victims. It traumatizes children, destroys extended families, and leaves entire communities grieving. The Indian American community in the Atlanta area has been particularly shaken by this tragedy. The Consulate General of India in Atlanta released a statement expressing deep grief over the incident and confirming that one of the victims was an Indian national. The consulate stated they were providing all possible assistance to the bereaved family. For the 3 children who survived, life will never be the same. They've lost multiple family members. Their sense of safety and security has been shattered. They'll likely need extensive counseling and support for years to come as they process this trauma. The 12-year-old who made that 9 911 call showed incredible presence of mind and bravery, but that child will also have to live with the memory of that night forever. The extended family members who are now caring for these children face their own enormous burden. They're grieving the loss of their loved ones while simultaneously trying to provide stability and care for traumatized children. The ripple effects of this one night of violence will be felt for generations. The broader Lawrenceville community has also been affected. Neighbors on Brook Ivy Court woke up that morning to find their quiet residential street transformed into a crime scene. Parents had to explain to their own children why police cars and news vans surrounded a house down the block. The sense of safety that comes from living in a peaceful neighborhood was shattered. As this case moves through the legal system, many questions remain unanswered. What exactly was the argument about that started all of this? Were there previous incidents of domestic violence that weren't reported? Could anyone have intervened to prevent this tragedy? Did Meemu or other family members recognize warning signs but feel unable to act on them? These are difficult questions, and in many domestic violence cases, the answers are complex and troubling. Often, abuse escalates gradually over time. Family members may minimize warning signs or feel trapped by financial dependence, fear, or cultural pressure to keep family matters private. Friends and neighbors may sense something is wrong, but feel it's not their place to interfere. One thing that makes this case particularly heartbreaking is the presence of the children. The fact that Kumar brought his own 12-year-old child to the scene, and that 2 other young children were already there, raises disturbing questions about his state of mind. Did he not care that his own child would witness this violence? Or was he so consumed by rage or whatever emotional state he was in that he couldn't think about the consequences? Child psychologists who work with young people who've witnessed violence talk about how these experiences fundamentally alter a child's sense of the world. Trust becomes difficult. The home, which should be the safest place, becomes associated with terror. Relationships with adults become complicated when the adults in your life failed to protect you, or, worse, were the source of danger. Make sure you're subscribed to Crime Shadows because we'll be following this case as it develops through the court system and bringing you updates. For anyone watching this who may be in an abusive relationship or know someone who is, please know that help is available. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24 hours a day at 1-800-797-233. In Georgia, the Partnership Against Domestic Violence can be reached at 7709-639-799. The Georgia Coalition Against Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-334-2836. These organizations can provide safety planning, counseling, legal advocacy, and emergency shelter. Leaving an abusive relationship is often the most dangerous time, which is why it's so important to have professional support and a safety plan. If you're worried about someone you know, these organizations can also provide guidance on how to help. The Lawrenceville shooting serves as a tragic reminder that domestic violence can escalate to lethal levels, often with little warning that outsiders can detect. It reminds us that the warning signs aren't always obvious, that violence doesn't always follow a predictable pattern, and that by the time law enforcement gets involved, it may already be too late. This case also highlights the importance of community awareness and intervention. While we can't always predict when someone will become violent, we can create communities where people feel safe reaching out for help, where warning signs are taken seriously, and where victims know they have options and support. The legal proceedings in this case will likely take many months or even years to conclude. Kumar is entitled to a defense, and his attorneys will have the opportunity to present their case. The prosecution will need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Kumar committed these crimes. Given that he was found hiding near the scene shortly after the shootings and that 3 children were witnesses to at least some of what occurred, the evidence against him appears substantial. but the case will still need to proceed through the court system. As the case progresses, we may learn more about what happened that night. 911 recordings may be released. Witness statements from the children may become part of the court record, though these will likely be heavily redacted to protect the minors involved. Forensic evidence will be presented. The medical examiner's reports will detail exactly how each victim died. But regardless of what additional details emerge, the fundamental tragedy remains the same. 4 people are dead. 3 children are traumatized. Multiple families are grieving. And a community is left searching for answers and trying to prevent the next tragedy. One of the most difficult aspects of cases like this is the question of prevention. Could this have been stopped? Were there intervention points that were missed? It's easy to look back after a tragedy and identify what should have been done differently, but in the moment, when you're in the middle of a situation, clarity is often lacking. This is why experts in domestic violence emphasize the importance of early intervention, education about healthy relationships, and creating systems that make it easier for victims to leave dangerous situations. It's why organizations work to train law enforcement to recognize warning signs and respond appropriately to domestic disturbance calls. It's why advocates push for stronger protective order enforcement and better coordination between law enforcement, social services, and the court system. The 3 children from this case will need extensive support as they heal from this trauma. Studies show that children who witness domestic violence are at higher risk for a range of negative outcomes, including mental health issues, difficulty in school, and even perpetuation of violence in their own future relationships. But with proper intervention, counseling, and support, children can heal and go on to live healthy lives. As we close out this case update, it's important to remember that behind the headlines and the crime scene photos are real people whose lives mattered. Meemu Dogra was 43 years old. She had a 12-year-old child who needed her. She had hopes and dreams and plans for the future that will never be realized. Gourav Cumar was 33. Nidhi Chander was 37. Harish Chander was 38. These were people with their own stories, their own loved ones, their own lives that were cut short. The tragedy of domestic violence is that it's often preventable, yet it continues to claim lives year after year. Every statistic represents a person. Every case represents a family destroyed. And every incident leaves behind survivors who must find a way to move forward while carrying unimaginable grief. If there's anything to take away from this case, it's the importance of taking domestic violence seriously. If someone tells you they're afraid of their partner, believe them. If you notice warning signs in a friend's or family member's relationship, speak up. If you're experiencing abuse yourself, please reach out for help. You deserve to be safe. Your children deserve to be safe. And there are people and organizations ready to help you find that safety. What do you think could have prevented this tragedy? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. The Lawrenceville case is still developing, and we'll continue to follow it as new information becomes available. We'll bring you updates on the court proceedings, the trial if it goes to trial, and the ultimate resolution of the charges against Vijay Kumar. This is a case that has affected an entire community, and the road to any kind of closure will be long and difficult. For now, 3 children are learning to live in a world where 4 people they loved are gone. They're learning to sleep in houses that feel safe. They're learning to trust adults again. They're learning to process trauma that no child should ever experience. And somewhere, extended family members are figuring out how to care for these children while dealing with their own grief and shock. This is the reality of domestic violence. It doesn't just end when the violence stops. The aftermath continues for years, sometimes for lifetimes. The survivors carry the weight of what they experienced and what they lost. And communities must grapple with the knowledge that this kind of tragedy can happen anywhere, to anyone, at any time. Thanks for watching this episode of Crime Shadows. If you found this coverage informative, please hit that like button. Share this video with others who follow true crime cases, and make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you don't miss our next upload. We cover cases as they break, giving you the facts and the context you need to understand what really happened. Until next time, stay safe out there.